event is equally momentous, something that will change life forever, completely, on planet Earth. What is a planet? A great sphere in space related to other planets in its system, with the sun as a nucleus for them all. So why the life on them? What's it all about? Why is there life on planet? Why do we come into incarnation? Why are we here on Earth? Not somewhere else, or not at all. There has to be a reason why this planet is teeming with life. Human life, animal life, vegetable life, mineral life, they're all part of one whole. Each grows out of the other. First is the mineral kingdom is laid down. From that grows the vegetable kingdom. From the vegetable kingdom grew the animal kingdom. From the animal kingdom grew the human kingdom. We owe our physical bodies to the animal kingdom, but we're not animals, we're something else. We are men, human, and we are more than simply intelligent animals. So we imagine ourselves as the highest point of all the kingdoms on the earth. But this is not true. This is a fantasy. From the human kingdom has grown, is growing, and will continue to grow another kingdom called the spiritual kingdom. What is the spiritual kingdom? The spiritual kingdom is the kingdom of souls. And humanity, 6.7 billion people, don't even know, en masse, the true constitution of humanity. They think they are intelligent animals. They come out, if they believe in Darwin, they come out of the animal kingdom and they branch off and grow a mind, a very intelligent mind eventually, which can make rockets to go to the moon and so on. That's fine, it's very plausible and acceptable, but it misses the point. The point is that humanity is part of another kingdom. It is the growth of the spiritual kingdom, the kingdom of souls, out of the human kingdom that completes the kingdoms on this planet. The solar system is a sentient, living body, full of life of all different kinds, which is the body of expression of a great cosmic being. I can't call him a man or a woman or someone we would recognize, but a great being whose plan is the eventual perfection of planet Earth and every other planet for that matter. We are here according to plan. Not just our plan, but a plan bigger than ourselves. And we take part in this evolution of planet Earth according to plan. The plan in the mind of that great cosmic being who ensouls planet Earth. Now, if there is a plan, there must be the exponents of a plan. These exponents are those members of humanity who have evolved according to the plan, in the light of the plan, becoming more and more what essentially they are, which are souls in incarnation. Every man, woman and child on earth is a soul, a living, growing, evolving soul, which is the reflection on the soul plane of an even higher, if you can say higher, but more all-embracing entity, which is the spark of God, the divine spark. That divine spark is so far in evolution and therefore in vibration from us on the physical plane. We are souls in incarnation, reflecting ourselves as the human personality with a physical body, an emotional astral body, and a mental body. And most people consider themselves to be that personality with these three bodies of expression. Whereas in total, man, all men, is a divine spark of the divine, perfect in every aspect of divinity at the level of our own planet. There are planets far more evolved than planet Earth. There are systems in which planet Earth would seem like the lowest of the low, because they are so much more evolved than our own solar system. So we mustn't get the idea that our own solar system is the most evolved of any possible solar system. It is not. But over the millions, literally millions of years of human evolution, some men and women have risen to the point where they begin to reflect on the physical plane the quality of life of themselves as souls. Souls are the reflection of the divine, so the soul is divine at its own level, but it takes incarnation over and over and over again, reflecting itself through a human being on the physical plane with a body which itself has three bodies: solid physical, emotional, and mental. So we are really threefold. We are the divine spark reflecting against the soul. The soul is the true man or woman. Each one is a soul. That soul makes a great sacrifice. It comes down into the dense physical world and reflects itself through the human being. And many have gone through the whole of the journey, from being ordinary men and women. At a certain point in their evolution, the soul makes its presence more strongly felt in the life of that person. And Christians, in their religious Christian teachings, call this the being born again. Now, the Christian teaching is that Christ said, no man can be born again, and no man can know God, come to God, who is not born again. So rather naive groups have formed themselves into groups where they call themselves born-again Christians. That's those who know that they believe in Jesus as the Christ, and they believe in their own religious teachings, of which that is part. In saying that, the Christ meant that no man can come to be the God he is, essentially is, from all time past, who has not been born again, that is, come to be the soul again. The soul can come down only as low as the physical being if the physical being is making the right kind of evolution to reach up to the soul. There is a meeting point at a certain vibrational rate of the atoms of the structure of the body. The soul can then come closer, more inhabit, awakening its own nature here at the right-hand side of the chest, in the center of the soul. That is the being born again. Now, very many people have, over the millions of years that humanity has been evolving, have reached to a point of what we would call perfection. Perfection as far as this solar system is concerned. It's not the absolute perfection, but the perfection of men in this particular solar system, this particular planet. The last few lives of this evolutionary process are covered by 5 great expansions of consciousness, each of which allows the person to have a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper insight into the plan of evolution for the world, and to take a conscious part in that plan. So he's not advancing blindly, but under his own steam, so to speak. When that 5th great experience is achieved, the person is what is called a master. He has become perfect. He has control he has consciousness and control on all planes open to us, from the dense physical to what we would call the highest spiritual plane. It's in the story of Jesus. The story of Jesus is really an account, but symbolic, of this process of going through these 5 great expansions of consciousness, reaching a higher stage and a higher stage, until being what Christians call resurrected, taken out of life and being above and beyond the need to incarnate at all on planet Earth. The birth of the Christ as Jesus is symbolized by the first great expansion, the first initiation as it's called. The second initiation is symbolized by the baptism of Jesus at Jordan. The third initiation is symbolized by the transfiguration of Jesus on the Mount. The fourth initiation is symbolized by the crucifixion. In the East they call it the Great Renunciation. In the West they call it the crucifixion. That is a symbol for the 4th initiation. Of course, if you take the 4th initiation, you're not these days crucified. It's a symbolic event in Palestine. But the life of a 4th degree initiate is usually quite a tough, difficult one. The 5th initiation is symbolized by what the Christians call the resurrection of Jesus after the crucifixion. When Jesus appeared again for 40, it says 40 days in the Bible. I understand it was 42 days, but never mind. We won't quarrel about 2 days. He was seen by the disciples after the crucifixion. Now, connected with the human evolution only, there are very many masters connected with other evolutions. But with the human evolution, the number is always kept at 63. So we have 63 masters who make up the perfected hierarchy for the human kingdom. There was a time long ages ago, thousands and thousands of years ago, when the masters lived openly in the world. But for 98,000 years, they have lived in the main in the remote mountain and desert areas of the world. But in places like the Himalaya, the Andes, the Rocky Mountains, the Cascades, the Carpathians, the Urals, the Caucasus, the Gobi Desert, and various other deserts. And from there, they beneficently oversee the evolution of humanity as a whole for the last 98,000 years. And they work through their disciples, men and women in the world. They are esoteric, occult, hidden away in the mountains and deserts, known only, usually, to their disciples. Some are not known at all. Give me the name of any man or woman who has significantly affected human life, has contributed something special to human life, in any department of life, in science, in art, in music, in politics, in government, in whatever department. And you will have given me a man or woman who is a disciple of one or other of the masters. People imagine, religious people imagine, that what they call God, what we all call God, whatever we mean by God, can only be known through the religious path. But this is not the case. To the masters, there are many paths leading to God. We are all souls in incarnation. We are potential gods ourselves. And that divinity can be demonstrated in every form of life, whether it's religious or political or scientific or artistic or whatever. People like Leonardo da Vinci or Rembrandt or Dürer or Beethoven, Mozart. These are people in the scientific field, you know, Einstein and all the great scientists. These are all disciples, sometimes conscious, not always, but very often conscious of who they were and their relation to their master. How is it that Mozart could play the piano when he was 4? I'm sure he made a few mistakes, but he played it reasonably well, you know. And because he had a rather heavy father, Leopold, he began to write music when he was about 6. But had he not been a musician, composer in his previous life, I doubt very much if he would have been so gifted in the life as Mozart. Mozart was a 3rd degree initiate. So was Beethoven, so was Bach, the best. But he would not have been Mozart or Bach or Beethoven if he had not been in the life before, and probably the life before that, a composer dealing with music, and so, till it's in his very nature as a soul. The life of humanity comes from the soul. The talents, the gifts, the artistry, the capacity to make music or painting or to write great literature and so on. All of that comes from the soul. And talking about musicians, some are very, very strict and hold on to their own path, and the music comes directly from the soul, and they work it out. If you look at the notes made before working, before writing, they're just little notes, little fragments, try different ways. And you look at Beethoven's notes, they are unreadable, scratched out and put over and written again and written over and scratched out and written again. They were readable to him, but they're unreadable to anybody else. Whereas with Mozart, it looks as if he just took the pen and wrote it down, which is what is true, more or less. But Mozart saw what he was writing, the music which he was writing, he saw as a picture, like a painting. A flat painting which you could look at, but to him, he instantly read that picture as music and wrote down the music. And that was a gift of his master. But all of that about Mozart, Beethoven, that was an aside, you know, it's not directly about what I'm really talking about. The point is, the big point, the important fact is that for the first time for 98,000 years, the masters as a group are beginning to return to the everyday physical world, to take the work which they have been doing behind the scenes in the mountains and deserts, hidden away, and to bring it out into the outer physical plane and do that consciously, openly, so that humanity knows who they are and why they are here. The first time for 98,000 years, we'll be able to see the masters on radio, on television, hear them on radio, go up to them in the street and say, "Hi, Master, have you got the time?" or whatever. "Can I have your autograph?" The plan is that the masters, not all of them because they're not all coming out, but 2/3 of them are coming out, so that's eventually about 40 masters. The fact is that the masters want to work with humanity cooperatively, moment to moment, as part of a conscious working together of that level of humanity which we just call humanity, and that level of humanity that we call the spiritual hierarchy, because there are a large number of people who are men and women who are also got one foot in the spiritual hierarchy. You see what I mean? They are initiate to some degree. And a lot of people have taken at least the first of these great expansions of consciousness. And about 4 to 5 million people are standing on the very threshold, just outside the door, of taking that first great experience of initiation. So that the world inevitably will be, never mind, the world inevitably will be tremendously changed as a result. This event has been planned for about over 500 years, but it was thought at first, well, for a long time, that it would probably be another 1,200, 1,300 years before it would take place. But in June 1945, significantly at the end of the war, from 39 to 45, Maitreya announced, Maitreya is the head and leader of that, our planetary hierarchy of masters and initiates. His personal name is Maitreya. And he announced that if humanity, of its own free will, so nothing would be imposed on humanity, but from its own free will, took the steps to put its house in order, then he would come back into the world and bring a large group of his masters into the world with him at the earliest possible moment. He said he would come when a measure of peace had been restored to the world, when the principle of sharing was at least beginning to govern economic affairs, when the energy which we call goodwill was manifesting, leading to the creation of right human relations, and when the political groups and the religious groups were cleaning house too, putting their houses in order. Then Maitreya said he would return with his group at the earliest possible moment. That was 1945. It was hoped they could come in about 5 years, round about 1950. It was hoped that the terrible experience of the war would have chastened humanity, led to a change of direction. But not all the nations had suffered, they had not suffered equally, and the powers quickly went back to the old, greedy, selfish, nationalistic ways of the past, of Pisces, in ways in which to this day they are stuck. Their greed, their selfishness, their got it written down here when I could find it. Complacency. I never remember that word for some reason. Maybe because I'm so complacent, I don't know. Anyway, their greed and their selfishness and their complacency just brought them back to where they were at the beginning of the war. So his coming was put back and put back and put back and put back until eventually in 1977 Maitreya announced, "I am coming whether they are ready or not." For thousands of years Maitreya has lived in the Himalaya, and on the 8th of July 1977 he descended from his mountain and came down into the plains of Pakistan to acclimatize himself, spent some days there, acclimatizing a body which he had created for the purpose of returning to the everyday world. That body is unique in the history of the world. Many of the masters make a body of manifestation, which they do by thought, and it's temporary, they dematerialize it afterwards. But Maitreya walks about and does his work in a body which is created by thought, which allows him to live at our level, our basic level, with all the horror and low vibration of living in one of the major cities on earth, which at the same time is sensitive enough to the higher vibration to bring in his consciousness as the head of hierarchy, the Christ. He embodies what we call the Christ principle, the energy of love. He stayed on the plains in Pakistan till the 19th of July 1977, and then by aeroplane arrived in London and has made London, the Asian community of London, what he calls his point of focus in the modern world. From London, his energy of love radiates out throughout the whole of the world. It comes down through all the planes, from the highest to the lowest planes, awaiting an opportunity to come forward openly and to declare to humanity who he is and why he's come and what he wants to do and so on. Since 1982, Maitreya has been ready and willing to come forward if humanity would invite him. But humanity never invites them. Humanity works through the media of the world, and the media never invite. The media of the world know this story as well as I know it, but they never do anything about it. Now an event for which Maitreya predicted in the middle of 1988, Maitreya predicted that there would be a world stock exchange crash which would begin in Japan. It seemed impossible. Japan was at the height of its financial power. The Nikkei average stood at 40,000 points. But a few months later, in 1989, the Nikkei average began to fall, and it began to fall, came down and down and down and down and down. And the financier said, well, if it comes to 18, that's it, it's finished. All's over for Japan. But it didn't stop at 18 points. It came down and down to 7 points, where it is today. I said 7 points, I meant 7,000 points, of course. No. It came down to 7,000 points again the other day. He said, it's they built it on sand. It's a bubble, yes. You've heard the word bubble recently. Every day, every time you switch on the television, they're talking about the bubble which is crashing in the banks and stock exchanges all over the world. We've done exactly, in terms of property and other gambling things and false mortgages, what they call toxic mortgages. Toxic mortgages. Exactly what the Japanese were doing up to the year 1989, creating a bubble. And he said it's inevitable, it has to burst. And of course it did burst, and has remained between about 10 and 15 ever since. Until today it's down at 7 again. So Maitreya sees this situation. Cheer up! It's great news. This crash all over the world is the best thing that could happen, because it will lead to the new structures, the new ways of thinking and feeling and relating, which will come under the aegis of the energies of Aquarius, rather than the dead, corrupt structures of Pisces.